talk about some of the more recent survey work we've done around college and career readiness. These are two surveys, both from the 15-16 school year, so very recent. They are our senior exit surveys and our district-wide surveys. And I'd like to emphasize that both of these surveys in some way will either be available very shortly or already are available in some sort of public format, because this is not data that we want to just keep to ourselves. We want to make it available because it really ties into a lot of the high school improvement work we're talking about, and we know we're not the only ones who are interested in it. So I'll start with the senior exit surveys. So this was administered to seniors in the spring of 2016. It's part of a state mandate. We have to do it every year. The mandated part is just to ask the students what they plan on doing after high school, but we worked with a few of the other offices here, including the academic office and career and technical education, to add some additional questions that we thought would meet their needs. We received an 82% response rate across all high schools. And as I mentioned, we added some additional questions to help other offices gauge things they're interested in. Our district-wide surveys are part of a larger effort. You may have heard we'll have a website up soon. This year we added several questions specifically related to college and career readiness. Overall, this was a 50% response rate for students. You can see the specific questions we added this year. For both surveys, we got support both from the schools for response rate as well as from outside partners who we knew were interested in the data. So it was really great to have their support as well, because we were, we all wanted the data. So they really helped us with our response rates, as did the counselors and the principal. So there was really a lot of support around both of these survey efforts. I'll start with the senior exit survey. So what do students say they will do after graduation within 1 year? So based on their responses, we were able to categorize the seniors into one of 4 categories. First is post-secondary education, with or without work, work without school, the military, and then not sure. So 85% indicated that they do plan on some sort of post-secondary education after school, and that does include technical schools. I think when we received the clearinghouse data, the National Student Clearinghouse data, which actually tells us who actually enrolled, I think we will expect fewer than 85%. So we know there is something that happens in between. But it is encouraging that many students do at least hope to go. So we can look at this data a number of different ways, and each school did receive a school level report for their data. But we also can look at it on the network level. So for example, on the right-hand side, you can see the district-wide percentage of students who are intending on post-secondary, and you can see some variation among networks. So for example, autonomy and innovation have higher rates of intended post-secondary education. We know that post-secondary intent does vary by demographic characteristics. So for example, girls are more likely than boys to pursue post-secondary education, or at least intend on it. Asian and multiracial students are more likely to pursue education, while Hispanic students are the least likely. And students with limited English proficiency, IEPs, or students who are economically disadvantaged are less likely to intend on education than their peers. In terms of what type of education they'd like to pursue, community college is the most prevalent among those 85% of students who plan on attending college. 33% intend on attending community college. Altogether, about 55% intend on 4-year schools. I pulled out this question for 2 different schools that are very different types of schools, just so you can see some of the variation. So in the orange, we have Dobbins, which is an all-CTE school. So you can see they have a higher percentage than average who are intending on technical or trade school, which makes sense. And then Academy at Palumbo, which is in our autonomy network, one of our higher performing high schools, has a higher percentage of students who are intending on a private 4-year college or university. So it's just more ways we can look at it. 46% of students said that they applied for college scholarships. I know this ties into what Allie was talking about with our FAFSA data. We also asked them to indicate how much they applied for and how much they received. So primarily students indicating that they applied for smaller amounts of scholarships, and 36% of students indicated that did not receive any scholarship money. We also broke out the percentage who applied for college scholarships by network, so we can see some variation. And this is not intended to be evaluative, it's more of a way of saying, here's where we have some work to do. Also tied into the issue of college scholarships and finances we asked students if they were planning to work while they attend school, and the vast majority do. So 70% say they'll work part-time, 23% say they'll work full-time, and only about 7% are saying that they will not need to work at all in college. So out of the 8% of students who said that they will go straight to the workforce, we asked them what type of work they would do. So you can see the responses there. So this would probably vary depending on what school you were looking at. So for example, if you were looking at a CTE school, depending on the type of programs, you might see different answers in terms of what profession students intend to go into. So in collaboration with Dr. McDowell's office, we added a question around other high school experiences. So sort of looking at students as more than just their grades and their attendance and their test scores, we acknowledge that students have other experiences that help make them ready for college and career. So for example, 46% indicated that during high school they've engaged in volunteer work, and 44% have had a summer after school or weekend job. We also asked a question of whether or not they had an internship, and 27% said they had, and then here's a sampling of the type of internships they said they had. And this is, in particular, is a good question as to do a sort of a baseline analysis for any work that might be done around trying to increase the percentage of students with internships. So it's always helpful to know where we're starting from. We also broke that down by network. In case you're curious about the Innovation Network, Science Leadership Academy, The Link, U School, those are the types of schools in the Innovation Network, because I know that one definitely stood out. We also asked high school seniors to assess the level of support they got in a number of areas related to life after high school. We worded the question in a way so that it was not intended to evaluate, for example, counselors in particular. It was asking them to look overall, the adults at your school, including counselors, teachers, support staff, or program staff, to what extent they gave the students a lot of help in these areas. So you can see how it falls. So for example, 51% strongly agreed they received support in applying for college. 46% strongly agreed they received a lot of support in completing college applications. So this is the kind of data that is useful, especially at the school level, to see where more support is needed, and not necessarily picking out any one person, thinking about it really holistically. Are the students getting what they need from the school? This is a network level view of that same question. So you can see there are some differences across networks in the percentage of students who feel most and least supported in these areas. We also asked students who were the most important people in helping them plan for life after high school. And the most common answer was families. They could select more than one. That's backed up by other research. I think it's interesting that guidance counselors, friends, and teachers all received the same level. Next, I'll go over those extra questions we added to the district-wide surveys. So, let's see, we have, I am learning skills in school that will help me when I'm older. So 39% strongly agree with that. I should also point out that this survey was given through students in grades 3 through 12, so not just high schools. And we did think that was appropriate because I think we're thinking of college and career readiness as needing to start even younger than high school. 43% strongly agree that they know what they have to do to get the career they want. 44% know what they plan to do when they graduate from high school, and 19% agree that in school they learn about a lot of different careers. And there's different ways we can look at this data. So for example, we broke this out by grade band, so for elementary, middle, and high school. I was sort of surprised, actually. The younger students are more likely to say that they're learning skills in school that will help them when they're older, and that they know what they want to do or excuse me, that they learn about a lot of different careers. So I think we need to look into that a little bit more. We also broke it out by CTE designation. So you can see there's some slight differences, particularly for schools that are all CTE schools. In school, I learned a lot about different careers. I know what I plan to do when I graduate from high school. Again, the green ones are the strongly agrees. I know what I have to do to get the career I want. I am learning skills in school that will help me when I'm older. So to wrap up, I'd like to share sort of how we use this data. So as I mentioned before, all of this data is shared back with the schools. We really want to give them, first of all, when they participate in something, we want to thank them and give the information back to them, but also to help them identify areas where they might need to get more support, either internally or externally. We want to provide baseline data for some new high school related initiatives, such as the FAFSA challenge. There's some talk about doing some more work about internships and summer jobs. And we also share it with external evaluators for program evaluation. We acknowledge that as a district, we tend to discourage evaluators and programs from doing their own surveys because we don't want to over-survey our students or our teachers. So we try to steer people towards using this existing data because we think it's pretty applicable to the work that's being done. I'm happy to answer questions at the end. Thanks.
Thank you.